Lesson 19. Here we go. Okay, let's start out with a regular old warm-up. The thing that's cool about today is our compositional strategy for the day is a circle. Okay, so that fits in with a lot of what we do. So let's start out with elliptical studies, and we'll do a mid-size elliptical study. I'm kind of interested in this strategy. And then I'd like for you to take and connect it kind of like a slinky. And then let's make a composition out of that inside this quadrant. And then off to our next quadrant. And let's do that with thin ones. Kind of a donut. Okay, now just with straight circles. And now our last quadrant, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to imagine some of these ellipses being at eye level, some of them being really below eye level, and some of them being the same amount above eye level, and at the same time turning horizontally. And it should be forming a gradation. So I can see the correction necessary on mine because it's just not gradating. So like this one wants to be between those two. And this one between those two. And it forms a little perspective diagram. These ones also look kind of floral. That one especially looks kind of floral. This one over here looks like an old-fashioned telephone. Okay, that's page 1. Cruising right along into page 2. Okay, let's work on curves, just linear curves, but let's settle them into a circular composition. So let's take, for instance, a circle and draw it in the center of this as a kind of reminder of what we're going to be getting up to. And now, how about we take a point and a point, and we start moving curves off of those points. That one's getting kind of cool looking. I kind of feel like it has like a little bit of a butterfly effect. Kind of like this one. Sorry guys, I started getting interested in this. Okay. Step away from the butterfly effect. And let's see. Let's see. You'll probably be hearing me better now. I'm hoping you've heard me pretty good up till now. So, a circle. But this time let's try S-curves. Let's try curves that hit in those lines with a kind of S to them. I don't like it. Oh, there's one we'll recognize. And we're using it to just gradually get more and more comfortable with a basic set of marks. I have an idea. Circle. Okay. I want to take a dot from here to here to here and connect it with a curve. From here to here to here. And come back around. That's interesting. It helps you start to see like shapes that could be, for instance, like if you think of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, right? So if you have a mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all, and you have these kind of circles that are surrounding it, and you start saying, well, all right, so I want to take from this edge of the circle to that, and I'm looking for a curve, and from this edge of the circle to that, and I'm looking for a curve. And then I'm going to touch this edge and then circle back out around these. Like I'm going to come in and then here, and I want to come in and then here, right? And then I'm going to come under this and over around and back under and over around. And so it has that kind of style that you might run into in something like Snow White. Kind of just like, I think that you would just repeat circles and repeat connections and densify your design. Okay, page 2. Page 3, flat shapes. Let's look at a circle and let's apply some triangles to this circle design. It's funny, it occurs to me right away that a much more common use of circles and triangles is with something like this. Which is a much more radiant and happy feeling. And this one feels a lot more like trouble, doesn't it? It's almost like looking in a shark's mouth, or it looks like if you had to do a drawing of like a symbol of like all the henchmen have gathered. That's kind of how that one feels. Kind of interesting. And we'll try some squares with some circles and see if there's anything obvious. It's kind of fun. Feels like so orderly. And now we'll just do some circles with some circles. And I want to talk to you a little bit about, so one of the skills that we did in class that I'd really like to see if I can get you guys to continue to practice is if we do this and we're shading, okay? Oh my God. So this whole time, it turns out that my opacity is at 50%. But at any rate, okay, I'm going to do a row here of geometric solids, okay? And I want to split it in half. So I've got to do a circle, a square, a cylinder, a sphere. I think I'll end on the sphere. We can do a circle, a square, a cylinder. We'll throw in a cone today, okay? And we're going to shade these guys. And so we did these in class, and so what might be fun, well, we'll do a quick practice of them, okay? So here's our circle. I'm going to go, I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I got a spot for my number 3 right here. Here's a spot. For my number 4. There's a spot for my number 5, which makes me want to move my number 4 over. And the other thing that I want to do is I want to oppose the tilt of that one. And this time I will oppose the tilt again, and I'm going to have to move that one over. I did circles on 2 ends. And remember, when you're drawing a cube, remember how to check your cube to see if it's good. So I have a cube, and I want to look and see if I have a party hat, and I do a little bit, meaning this guy has to come down, so that'll help me. This guy has to come up. Okay, I'm going to check and see if my legs are all as long as each other. And it's turning out that this one is shorter, which it wants to be because it's in the back, but then that one is a little too long. So that's no good. So I want to shorten it just a touch. That'll make it feel better. Okay, and it looks like I've got a problem right here. Okay, cube is getting in order. Feels like a well-drawn cube. And maybe what we'll do is we'll replace this sphere with a pyramid. And I'd like for it to correlate size-wise with everything else that we're talking about here. Okay, there we go. So let's do some shading. So the easiest one to understand the shading on is this guy. We're looking for a dark middle light. And I'm practicing my directional shading techniques. And I'm allowed to do a nice holding line, especially on the outside. Okay, I'm going to clean up a touch. Very good. Try to blend my marks. Clean up my sketching. Reinforce the holding line. I'm going to try to be lighter on this side than I was on the other side. And that will really reinforce the sense of dimensionality. And if I want to darken the side that I began with, I can cross them. And if I do this thing up towards the top, where I really darken up towards the top, I'm going to go back this direction. Notice how that creates a sense of reflected light. And also, here's something cool. So the light direction is coming from this way. Now, if I take and I put a cast shadow, like right here, it will make this thing feel, here I'll show you. It'll make this thing feel like it's sitting like right on the ground. I actually learned this from a David Finch video not that long ago. But watch what happens. I could do this too. And put in a cast shadow down there. And now I'm being sloppy. Feeling like I don't want to take too much time. Okay, so but if my cast shadow turns out there, see how it makes it feel like it's off the ground? Okay. How about we'll take on this guy, and the light will always be coming from the same direction. So with these, that's how it's going to be. You're going to have, the cylinder is going to, it has a line. And there's my holding line. There's my holding line. Kind of cleaning this guy up. Go away. Okay. And then as I turn from this part of the shadow, and this becomes my crosshatch, and then I want to lighten. I want to gradually make these lines further apart, and I can come back to this part of the shadow and darken, and then as I work my way that way, I'm going to lighten. So that makes my core shadow. Okay. And now I want to turn out from there, and I'm just really gently, this is a turning plane right here. So what I'm doing is I'm really lightly gradating over into the light. And then you remember in class, we can set up the holding line there, and then there's a really light turning form right here. It's just super light. You'll hear we have a dog visitor today named Ruby. You'll hear Ruby in the background panting like crazy. Okay, now let's take this guy on. Let's say that the light is coming from that direction, and it's almost exactly the same. Oh, here, let's do this. Here's my cylinder on the ground. It comes down and hits the ground. Sorry about that. And here's my cast shadow from my cylinder, showing you that that cylinder is also floating. Okay, now the light is coming from this way, so but this time see how it interacts with the point? Okay. Okay, there's the darkness on the core shadow. Over into the reflected light. Crosshatch, notice how my crosshatches follow the contour. Clean this guy up. Okay, this turning over into the light, really gentle. And now this is called a turning edge too. It's just right there. It's a really gentle mark. Cleaning up after myself. Okay. Over to here. And the light coming from the same direction. And the sphere. Here's my light. Let me clean up my sketch a tiny bit. Okay. Cross contour. I'm not sure what happened. Just not sure what happened there. Okay, it's back. And my rendering is a lot cleaner with a regular pencil. This edge is the core shadow. Okay, so I've got core shadow, reflected light. I'm gonna turning edge, turning out into the light. Just going really light and gently gradating over to the light. And then right here, just on the edge, letting yourself, it's a turning edge. Clean that up. Holding line, turning edge. And this is coming out just a little too dark. Okay, see me in class for better shading. Wacom shading, not so awesome. Let's see. Okay. Last page. Here's the when you're just playing with compositions and you're playing with people, you want for them to be really simple, right? And I've been talking with you about it. So for instance, here's a perfectly acceptable person mannequin to start moving around. Look, I'm going to get him to say hi. And it's part of what's so useful about this mannequin is how easy it is to draw, you know, but still it gives us a starting point for other things that we can do. So let's say what we want to do is we want to make, oopies, he's like wearing a glove. Part of what we want to do is we want to make a composition that takes advantage of the concept of a circle, okay? And we want to make it like a person composition, like a people composition that takes advantage of the concept of a circle. And so sketch in the motif that you're going to work with. And then if you did something like this and you have a person like here, and you could have another person right here. Look, and you could have a little rabbit right there. And this again is a composition that's been built around the idea of a circle. And this is the early stage of the drawing when you're just doing a design preparation. You're just laying out, you know, what this thing is going to be. I don't know what's going on with these two guys, but they're sitting here checking out this rabbit. And you want to cover your tracks. You don't want people to know exactly what you're getting up to, you know? So for instance, you know, as we crop it in further, kind of starts feeling like one of those funny stories that you run into sometimes where like, you know, a kid brings their pet to school or something like that. Okay, I think that'll do it for us for today. Nice job, guys, and I'll see you in class.